Yo, what's good everyone? Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prodigy channel. And in this video, we are going to be breaking down one of my favorite picks in all of fantasy football for the upcoming 2022 fantasy football season, and that is Mr. Dalton Schultz, tight end of the Dallas Cowboys. If you're not familiar with him, in 2021, last season, in 17 games, he played every game. He had 78 receptions on 104 targets for 808 yards to go along with 8 touchdown receptions. If you look at, well, here's his game log if you want to check out his game log. This is in half PPR scoring. He had some really big games. He did have a few down weeks here and there, but let's be honest, at tight end, it is always hard to find consistent production at that position unless you're Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews last year. But I'm going to talk about later in this video why I think Dalton Schultz could even have a better season than last year, okay? But before we get to that, just taking a quick look at yesterday, or by yesterday, I mean last year, 2021, Dalton Schultz let's go back to total scoring. He was the tight end 3. There he is. He was a tight end 3 on the season amongst tight ends in total fantasy points in half PPR scoring, which is the format that I like to go off of. He was a little bit ahead of George Kittle. Granted, Kittle played 3 fewer games, playing 14 games versus Schultz's 17. But he was still a little ways, or a decent ways behind Travis Kelce and Mark Andrews, who really just were a different level last year, especially Mark Andrews with what he did. But if you look at their average points per game, Dalton Schultz was still tight end 5 overall for the 2021 season in half PPR scoring. So no matter how you slice it, Dalton Schultz had himself a really, really good 2021 season, a breakout player, and he was awesome for fantasy. So he was the tight end 3 overall last year in half PPR scoring, the tight end 5 in points per game. And I'm going to tell you why I still think he is a value for the upcoming 2022 fantasy football season. And like I said, one of my favorite picks in all of fantasy, okay? So we kind of took a look at last year. Now let's look at what's going on for the upcoming season, all right? The Dallas Cowboys, they have a high-powered offense. They have for the last few years. They put up a lot of fantasy points in general. There's a lot of points to go around, okay? Now, what's interesting about this upcoming season is the Dallas Cowboys have a ton of vacated targets, okay? They are going to be without Amari Cooper, one of their leading receivers over the last few seasons. Cedric Wilson left town. And I'm just going to go over the main targets that are missing. There's other ones too, but those are 2 of the main ones that are gone. They're not on the team anymore. Cedric Wilson on the Miami Dolphins, Amari Cooper on the Cleveland Browns. And also, we cannot forget that Michael Gallup, even though he is still on the Dallas Cowboys, he is going to miss some time at the start of the season with an ACL injury. He's recovering from that injury from last season, from late last season. So to start the year, it's going to be CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz to soak up a ton of targets. When you see vacated targets on a team, a lot of the time it might go to a running back. So you might see Tony Pollard or Ezekiel Elliott more involved in the passing game as well. But if anything, these changes just secure that key volume for Dalton Schultz that he had last year, even with Amari Cooper in town. I think his volume is very safe for this upcoming season. And on a team like the Dallas Cowboys who expect to put up points, that is a recipe for fantasy success. And really quickly, just to kind of outline my point here about the vacated targets, I found this little article by John Daigle, published on August 16th, 2022. I'm posting this on August 19th, 2022. Always make sure you're staying up to news because injuries, suspensions, things like that might change what I'm saying in my video. You know, if someone gets suspended, obviously, I might not like him as much. So I always like to include the date of when I'm recording just in case things change. But this article kind of just goes over air yards, targets that are missing, all that sort of thing. So for air yards, you see the Cowboys rank quite high in vacated air yards. If you look at air yard percentage, they're also very high. Total targets vacated. The Cowboys are missing 200 targets from last season. Okay, those got to go somewhere. Dallas lost players, but they also brought a few players in. James Washington was one wide receiver that they added to their roster to fill the void that was left with some of their other targets leaving. But he just recently got injured, and he is set to miss 6 to 10 weeks with a leg injury that requires surgery. So wide receiver Jalen Tolbert has a real chance to be the wide receiver 2 to start the season. And once Michael Gallup returns from his injury, it'll be, Gallup, and or Jalen Tolbert at that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 spot. But Tolbert is a rookie, and we have yet to see how he will perform. Either way, I still think this leaves plenty of opportunity for Dalton Schultz to do at least what he did last year, if not more. Long story short, Dalton Schultz was already good, actually great for fantasy last season, especially at the tight end position where, like I said, it's really hard to lock that down unless you get one of those top couple guys that is actually a positional advantage. And he was already great last season, and now he has even more opportunity with the vacated targets, with the missing weapons, and he showed last year that he can get it done when he's relied on. Again, taking a look at this game log, he had plenty of games where he saw 6, 7, 8, 9, even 10 targets. He was able to get in the end zone. He had a couple 1, 2 multi-touchdown games, so he has big game ability. I think the fantasy community might be sleeping on Dalton Schultz a little bit. Now, for Dynasty, he is on the franchise tag, okay? So just to give a little Dynasty insight here, that does leave his long-term future a little bit in question because for redraft, obviously, I like him this year on the high-powered Cowboys offense where we saw him succeed last season already. With the franchise tag, after this season, we don't know what his future is going to hold. They haven't been able to reach a long-term contract, so he might be gone next season. We don't know what's going to happen. So for Dynasty, just be aware of that. Dalton Schultz, courtesy of the Fantasy Football Calculator, he is currently going in the 7th round, 1 pick before pick 69. Pretty nice. And to me, that's a great value. If you look at where the tight ends are going, Darren Waller is going all the way up in the 4th. Pitts and Kittle kind of right at the beginning of the 4th. Those guys obviously have, elite upside, and Kittle and Waller especially have done it in the past. They all have question marks. Kittle, with his injuries kind of creeping up a little bit, quarterback change with Trey Lance, Deebo Samuel kind of running the show there. Will Brandon Ayuk be more involved in San Francisco? Kyle Pitts, don't get me wrong, he's a freak. He's a great talent. Rookie tight ends normally don't put up the numbers that he put up last year, and he did amazing. But you got Marcus Mariota throwing the ball. How many scoring opportunities will he have? Darren Waller, honestly, after week 1, it looked like he was going to be the tight end 1 overall when he just got hyper-targeted that game. But down the stretch, he kind of slowed down, and now they bring in Devontae Adams. They still have Renfro. Who knows what the targets are going to be like for Waller? And you have to go all the way down to like the 6th, 7th round, and finally Dalton Schultz is creeping up. By then, if you didn't draft a quarterback yet, you should be able to have a handful of running backs, a handful of wide receivers. Let's say you end that 6th round with getting a guy like Hollywood Brown, Robinson, Brandon Cooks, Cortland Sutton. You come back and you lock down that tight end position with Dalton Schultz. I mean, hey, even a guy like Dallas Goedert, who's going apparently just around that spot, but a little bit earlier, I question if he's going to get the targets. He's pretty talented, but is Jalen Hurts going to be able to throw the ball enough volume-wise and accuracy-wise to get the ball to A.J. Brown, who they traded a lot for and signed to a big contract, Devontae Smith, who in his own right, going into his 2nd year, is a talented player who's going to command targets, and Dallas Goedert. And even when you get in the red zone, Jalen Hurts, he's going to run the ball in a little bit. So I'm a little bit worried about Dallas Goedert. To me, Dalton Schultz is one of the safest picks in fantasy. Zach Ertz is also, I don't want to get too ahead of myself here, but Zach Ertz in the 9th round is also a great value, especially while Hopkins is out. But once he comes back, who knows what the target volume is going to be like. Long story short, enough rambling. Dalton Schultz, to me, is one of the greatest values in all of fantasy football for the 2022 fantasy football season. And if he's sitting there in your draft and you're in need of a tight end, I would recommend taking a chance on him. And with that being said, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Make sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and good luck drafting, guys. I'll see you guys later. Peace out.